Guys, for Belgian 95, recording live from the Local County Prison Cell. This is kind of like the Neo versus Wesker one, where I did this a while ago, wasn't happy with it. I mean, I'm not just gonna remake everything I've ever done that's X number of years old. That would just be insane and time consuming and a gigantic workload. Not to mention, I'd have to redo all of the thumbnails I've been spending the last month putting on there. So, let's not humor that idea. But this one was a fight that I actually it was just something I just thought about and did, and everyone was like, no, you gotta, everyone was yelling at me for it, and the more I looked into it, the more I just thought like this fight's way better than I thought it was. And I did not do it justice when I did it the first time, so I'm going to try to do it a lot better here. So the fight is Ezio, or Ezio Auditore della Frenzy from Assassin's Creed, or I guess Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, all of them. He's been in like 5 of them, but and Prince from Prince of Persia. So you've got the guy who's been in about 15 different games, and the guy who's had his series remade about 15 different times. For this, I'm primarily going to be sticking. I mean, Death Battle would take as many examples as they could, I guess, but I would primarily stick with Sands of Time, Warrior Within, and Two Thrones. Right, Forgotten Sands is a remake. Prince of Persia is a remake of the entire series. I guess you could argue that those 3 I just mentioned were a remake of the old PC games, but whatever. So, so Ezio you can pretty much take on face value when you consider that he's a member of, the Assassin's Guild, which were the, descendants of the, not the descendants, but the, they were the race of humans that had heritage from the Isu people, the Isu being an advanced superhuman civilization that predates, all of human civilization. And that he's, a member of them, so he has this, lineage, and he has this ability. And then he has, an assassin, as pretty much historically all of them end up having. So he, was an amazing free runner, fantastic, marksman, swordsman, martial artist, just everything you would need to be an assassin, as well as, the intelligence and the targeting and, the friends with Leonardo da Vinci, which gives him half of his weaponry, and then, primarily the main thing would be the Apple of Eden. He also had the Staff of Eden at one point, but that's, once you have one item of Eden, it's kind of unnecessary to have multiple. And the items of the items of Eden are lost super technology from the Isu people that pretty much allow the humans, to subjugate the entire rest of their race. I mean, every biblical or historical, mythical event in human history has been through the use of Isu technology, like the parting of the Red Seas, the Trojan War, things like that. And the usage, mythologies in general, like Greek mythology, all of the world's myth basically comes from the Isu people themselves, making themselves appear in early civilization and early human history. So him being, him having hold of the Apple of Eden, which there are multiple of, but his copy of the Apple of Eden pretty much acts the same way the rest of them do, where he can infuse energy into himself, he can create illusions, which, some of them are just illusions, and then some of them can actually interact with you. So it's like a shadow clone where if you kill them, they just disappear, but they can still kill you. He's capable of basically seeing advanced. I mean, the seeing calculations and stuff is a weird one. but then he's got the ability to, pretty much all to a degree alter reality. So that's a pretty big bonus as well. And the transfer of energy of himself can be from, giving himself the energy to do things versus, making himself temporarily superhuman for a short time, as we've seen people infusing themselves with energy have been able to take multiple stab wounds while fighting assassins. So that's, you can argue that they can temporarily make themselves superhuman. Um, then we move on to Prince. This is a complicated one. So basically, when he was the Prince of Persia, which is weird because he's Babylon. Well, whatever. Um, he went on his first successful conquest of another country, and by doing so, found the Dagger of Time. Now, the Dagger of Time calls upon the power of the Sands of Time, which allows him to, for a short period, rewind time to a short period, or by a short amount, and he could do it increasingly more the more sand he has access to. Um, he was tricked by the Grand Vizier into opening the Sands of Time, which allowed, the undead to rise, and he ended up having to actually fight his way through that, and he eventually used the sands to go back and stop them from ever having been opened. But then there's also a prophecy that the one who opens the sands must die, and because of that, because he basically used time travel to undo his death, he had no place in that timeline, so that meant he was marked for death by the guardian of the timeline. So what he did was he went back in time again to stop the sands from ever having been created. And that worked. But the sands were still created, though, and by the vizier, who had betrayed him before, had actually been able to use the sands to pretty much make himself a god, and now Prince ends up with, the sands tainting his body and resonating within him. So, through that whole story, Prince has gone through, he's fought off the army of the undead, he's fought off, giant monsters, wizards, assassins, just giant, parade of stuff, navigated through impossibly deadly, temples and things like that, literally traveled through time in most of them, defying the laws of physics to do so, yeah. And he's done so usually without a sword. He's a master swordsman. I only say master because, well, he's doing all of this stuff basically just with swords. He's a master swordsman, but he has a tendency to always lose his swords, so he ends up making do with, just a knife, like a kitchen knife, or, a stick or something. And then and I mentioned the being tainted by sands, he actually has a transformation that he goes into should his life ever be in so much danger that his willpower fades a little. He loses balance to the embodiment of the sand that's tainted his body, and he becomes the Sand Prince, where instead of now a sword, he has kind of like a snake sword, like a whip, a bladed chain that he, can cut through people like butter. His body becomes, nigh impervious, and I believe he gets a speed boost as well. He gets to move like twice as fast or something. It was really cool. But he can't manipulate time while he's doing it. He can't use the dagger while he's doing it. So, who do I think wins in this fight? I think the Sand Prince is ultimately the thing that would give Prince the win. But really, I don't see Ezio holding any advantages here. Ezio has the weapons advantage, right? Because, like I said, Prince is always losing his weapon, and Ezio has twin blades, he's got a sword, he's got a hidden gun, all of which would be completely capable of killing Prince, but, the Dagger of Time allows him to just undo time for a short period. So, all of those hidden surprises that Ezio has, and the most dangerous of those weapons, he would pretty much be able to just, before I die, undo time, and let me start over again. Now we see the sands of time, the sands of time that power the dagger, are limited in how many times you can use it. Usually, it's about 4 times before it's empty. And he gets it back by slaying sand monsters who are just the undead who were brought back by the sands. And he refuels the dagger. He's not going to be able to do that here, so he's going to be locked into that he can rewind time. Take a shot every time I say time. That's 2 right there. But, like I said, if this were just a plain old fight, given these weapons, I would say that Prince takes it. But it's not, because Ezio has, like I said, the Apple of Eden, which would pretty much allow him to stay on par with the Dagger of Time and the Sand Prince mode, but again, the things that the Apple is capable of generating, the illusions and all of that, that's stuff that Prince deals with regularly, so he's capable of dealing with that. And we've seen, regular assassins like Ezio take out people who are using the items of Eden, like the Apple. So, if they can do it, I would argue that Prince would definitely be able to do it. Considering he has all of this advantage with that rage mode and with the dagger that, these guys didn't. And, like I said, that Ezio is capable of, infusing energy into himself with the apple in order to power himself up and survive multiple stab wounds and things like that. But that's not gonna, that has its limit. And, again, this limit was reached by regular assassins with blades, whereas not this superhumanly nigh invulnerable, guy with a sword that can slice people in half. So, would the apple allow Ezio to kill regular Prince? Absolutely. Especially, but, at some point, the Sand Prince is going to take over, and that just completely stops, I think, any chance of Ezio winning at that point, because I don't think there's much he can do to combat that, first of all, but also, I don't even think that he can, survive with his power-up. So, I think generally that is where we draw the conclusion that Prince wins. Now, there's a bunch of shit that you can say in this fight, which incarnate, at the end of Twin Thrones, or Two Thrones, sorry, Prince loses the dagger, and he loses the Sand Prince and everything. Well, we've had death battles before where characters at the end of their story don't have their powers anymore, but they keep them for the fight. So Prince would have all of that, obviously. And then somebody might bring up the argument that in the Assassin's Creed story, you're actually living through the history of your ancestors, which is in linear time. So the fact that Ezio hasn't died in that story means that he wouldn't die in the future. Well, not only does that probably violate some rule of death battle, but also, that makes it, Prince has been in and out of the time stream so much that he's actually broken linear time. I feel like he'd be capable of doing that. So, all in all, I give it to Prince of Persia here. Yeah. I don't see. I think that he'd be the winner here. But yeah, I just wanted to redo this fight because, like I said before, it was just like, well, this guy has a gun and this guy doesn't. And this guy has the trigger, and I just was very bare bones. I When you break down the lore and the mythology and everything behind these series, it becomes way more awesome. And plus, I've loved both of these series. Assassin's Creed, I kind of fell off, but I really liked the Prince of Persia games when they were out, so yeah, I really wanted to do this fight justice. But anyway, Rev Legend 95. See ya.